Hi guys, my name is Chaos and welcome to this episode of Gaming Facts by Gameology, and today's episode we are going to cover 10 video game sequels that will unfortunately never happen. Have you ever played a game and thought to yourself, I can't wait for the sequel to this? Well, I hate to break it to you, but these games are never coming out. For one reason or another, these are the top 10 video game sequels that will never happen. Kicking off our list today at number 10 is Half-Life 2 Episode 3. Now, let's get this one out of the way nice and early, and you're thinking, okay, wow, this could have been number 1. Well, it makes you wonder what actually will be at number 1, and Half-Life 2 is one of the greatest games ever made, and it was released in 2004, and in June 2006, the first of a series of episodic sequels was released titled Half-Life 2 Episode 1, and then we got Episode 2 about a year later. However, the planned and much-awaited conclusion to the trilogy, Half-Life 2 Episode 3, commonly referred to as Half-Life 3, it never came. It was delayed time and time again with Valve employees and even Gabe Newell himself confirming that the game existed, but we never saw any of it to this day. The game has not been officially canceled, and many gamers are holding on to the hope that one day it will actually be released. But if we're being honest with ourselves, the game's probably never coming out. When the demo for this game at number 9 was released on the PS4 as PT, it quickly got a ton of attention in the gaming community for how terrifying it was. I'm talking about Silent Hills. The atmosphere, the enemy AI, the story, the fantastic visuals, everything about PT was great, and it was all leading up to the release of the 5th Silent Hill game, simply titled Silent Hills. However, things ended very quickly over at Konami as the company had a disagreement with one of the game's directors, Hideo Kojima, leading to him and his team leaving the game and Konami pulling the plug on its production. According to the game's other director, horror legend Guillermo del Toro, they made a lot of efforts to try and keep the game going, and at one point, Gears of War creator Cliff Bleszinski was even being considered to take Kojima's place as the director. Unfortunately for all of us, no progress was made to revive the game, and it was left to die. At number 8, we have Mass Effect Andromeda 2. Now, Mass Effect Andromeda definitely angered a lot of fans of the franchise, which heavily contributed to the planned sequel being put on an indefinite hold. Released in early 2017, Andromeda continued the story of the Mass Effect universe, but was developed by a new and inexperienced team, leading to some awful writing and voice acting, bad character models, animations, and just an overall buggy and disappointing game. While there still was fun to be had in the Andromeda universe, the general consensus was it was not a good addition to the series. It was just rather a quick cash grab. So, the team had plans to develop a sequel, but in August of 2017, production was put on hold, and it is unclear if it will ever continue. If you're a Star Wars fan, you're going to hate this one at number 7. Star Wars Republic Commando 2. Released in February of 2005, Star Wars Republic Commando is one of the most beloved games in the entire franchise, telling us the story of an elite group of clone troopers who are sent on various missions during the first few years of the Clone Wars, which fell in between episodes 2 and 3 of the Star Wars saga. The gameplay was fantastic, and it was really challenging the player with its squad commands and extremely well-programmed AI. The story was also loved by fans and critics, which is not easy to do as it really fleshed out the clone troopers in a way that the movies never could have done, and it actually made you care about them as soldiers as opposed to just faceless fighters. Unfortunately, the cliffhanger ending at the end of Republic Commando will never be resolved. The sequel is going to be called Imperial Commando and would likely take place after Order 66 converted the clones' alliances, but for unknown reasons, the game was shut down. At number 6, we have Conker's Bad Fur Day 2. There have been multiple sequels to the classic Conker's Bad Fur Day in development, but unfortunately, none of them ever really saw the light of day. After the success of the first game, Rare started working immediately on Conker's Other Bad Day, which was a direct sequel, but after Microsoft purchased the company in 2002, that game was shut down. After release of Live and Reloaded, a remake of the original game, Rare began working on another Conker game called Get Medieval, which was a multiplayer-heavy game in the Conker universe, although it was also shut down and it just became repetitive. The last effort to get Conker his sequel was in the short-lived Project Spark for Xbox One and Windows. Now, Project Spark was a sandbox game that would have featured an episodic series called Conker's Big Reunion. However, due to Project Spark underperforming and being shut down rather quickly, only the first episode of the sequel was released, and the rest never saw the light of day. I guess it just wasn't meant to be. Cracking into the top 5 today, Star Wars Battlefront 3. With the 2 existing Battlefront games developed by EA, I think it's safe to say that the original Battlefront format is gone forever. Sure, we may get a game called Battlefront 3, but we are never going to get the Battlefront 3 that we all wanted so badly. After the release of the original Battlefront 2 in 2005, work on the sequel began, and it was going to be amazing. It was going to be released on the 7th gen of consoles. Work was going well, and early builds were completed, but a series of strange reasons made it where it was shut down before it was ever done. According to the workers, the game was missing deadline after deadline due to the sheer size of the project, but at the time that it was finally shut down, the game was pretty much done and only needed to be bug tested. We were that close to getting Battlefront 3. Now we're stuck with EA, so yeah. At number 4, we have Ultimate Spider-Man 2. Released in 2005, Ultimate Spider-Man, the original, is considered by many to be the best Spidey game to date. It was based on the Ultimate Spider-Man series of comics and was developed by Treyarch, the same team that made the excellent Spider-Man 2 game. Now, Ultimate Spider-Man took a much more colorful and comic book style approach than Spider-Man 2, with a unique visual style and sporting Venom as the main villain. The game was loved by critics and fans alike, and it was awesome. Had an awesome open world, great combat and swinging, and the ability to control Venom. Unfortunately, for reasons that will never be disclosed, a sequel was never made or ever really considered, despite how well the original performed and the clear demand for another one. And now that Marvel has gone in such a different direction with Spidey, it is pretty unlikely that we will ever get the continuation of this. Now, the Mario franchise has plenty of different iterations, okay? Super Mario World, Super Mario 3D Land, Mario Party, Mario Kart, Mario Galaxy. You guys know the drill. But why the heck did we never get a sequel to Super Mario Sunshine? At number 3, Super Mario Sunshine 2. Now, Sunshine was released in 2002 for the GameCube, and it was a huge critical success commercially everywhere. And it's still the only mainline Mario game to not get a sequel. Many of the game's elements were reused in later games, and Super Mario Odyssey is the first Mario title since Sunshine to actually utilize a non-linear open world. But it is pretty unlikely that we're ever going to get that sequel, and I don't really understand why. Another one I don't understand why is Portal 3. Portal is one of the best puzzle game franchises ever, although calling it a franchise is a little strange since there have only been 2 installments. But both of these games were fantastic, and Valve just isn't too great about finishing trilogies, and we haven't heard anything about Portal 3. According to sources, the idea of a Portal 3 was never really supported at Valve, and they instead made a game called The Lab, which was in the same universe but featured new gameplay. And I think it's safe to say that many of us still want the conclusion to the Portal trilogy. And taking the number 1 spot today on our list is Perfect Dark 3. After Microsoft's purchase of Rare, they unfortunately created a series of lackluster sequels to their beloved classics. We had the lame Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, we had the decent remake of Conker's Bad Fur Day, and we also had the painfully average Perfect Dark Zero. The original Perfect Dark is one of the greatest and most influential first-person shooters of all time, and it seemed only natural that Rare would make a sequel, but unfortunately, Perfect Dark Zero was just nowhere as good as the first. If you ask me, Rare should really hunker down and give us a conclusion to the Perfect Dark trilogy and give us the game that we've all been waiting for. And there you have it, my friends. Those are 10 video game sequels that unfortunately will probably never happen. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Gaming Facts by Gameology. We'll be back with more in the future, and in the comments section, let me know what your favorite video sequel of all time is. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you later.